Okay, so good morning. We are on Nedarim Daf Lamed Aleph, and the Gemara made things very simple for us because we get to start at the literally very top of Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph. Let me share my screen, and we can really get started. Now we are in the middle of a series of Mishnayot that define certain terms or phrases when used in the context of a neder. So, yesterday we looked at the question of if you say, the people that are born or the people that will be born or the people that, have been born. We looked at the question of, people who have blackened heads, meaning that they have hair on their heads because the people in those areas of the Middle East all have black hair, or at least the assumption is that they do. We talked about what if you say, the people who see the sun, does that mean that they actually have to see the sun, that they have to be able to see, or not? And we said no, it means that really, even though we say see the sun, we mean people that the sun sees, meaning anybody effectively on earth. In any event, we are continuing that same theme as we begin at the top of Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, and we say Hanoder Mishov Se Shabbos. If you make a neder not to benefit from those who rest on Shabbos. So is that just Jewish people, or are there other Shabbosim or other people who might do that as well? So Asr b'Yisrael v'Asr b'Chutim. Not only are you covered by Yisrael, but the Kutim who were an early group that converted to Judaism and seemed to have their own, but may not have been fully appropriate converts. There's a question of whether they were, converted because of a threat, and as a result, they're not really good converts. In any event, the point is that not only the Jewish people, but certainly in this read of this Mishnah, it seems that they are covered. They are Jewish enough for that perspective. So therefore, they are also observers of Shabbos. What about if you say that you're prohibiting yourself from people who eat garlic? Now we'll learn the Rans at the end of this. Actually, we can go straight. Asr b'Yisrael v'Asr b'Chutim. Not only are you prohibited with the Jewish people, but you're also again prohibited to benefit from the Kutim as well. Now, what in the world is this whole thing about garlic about? So if we need to turn back to the Ran on Lamed Amud Aleph, because the Ran on Lamed Amud Aleph, there are a few, and this happens throughout Maseches Nedarim, where the pagination for the Ran doesn't quite match, and the order of the Ran doesn't quite match the order of our Gemara, and so the pagination gets a little bit mixed up. So here, this seems to have been appended to an earlier Mishnah, but in any event, let's take a look at the Ran on the bottom of Lamed Amud Aleph, where it says, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 lines up near the end of the line. Mi'ochle hashum. So it's the Ran explains that this concept of eating garlic is referring to Tekanot Ezra, that this is one of the Tekanot that Ezra established. Why? Le'achol shum b'leilei Shabbos, to eat garlic on Friday, lefi shehashum marba esazera, because the idea is that one is in onos Talmud Chacham erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos. There's an idea that in general, Talmidei Chachamim have marital relations on Friday night, and so in order to maximize the likelihood that those marital relations are in fact productive, and because garlic increases production from of male seed from the Gemara's understanding, so as a result, they were encouraging people to have garlic on Fridays. So that was v'asar b'kutim, and not only would it apply to the Jewish people, so this prohibition, again, continuing with the next round, would also apply to the Kutim, the inunami ochle shum ba'arbe Shabbatot, because they too would also had the same system, and they agreed that in fact it was a good idea to have this garlic on Friday. So now we've understood why. I don't know that in fact it is true from a modern scientific perspective, but in any event, that is the story there. So now the third and final category is Mi'ola Yerushalayim, those who go up to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem. So in that situation, Asr b'Yisrael umutar b'kutin. There, it would be different. And we go again back to Lamed Aleph, where we have again, Miola Yerushalayim Asr b'Yisrael Timitzuvin la'alos va'olim, because the Jewish people are commanded to go to Yerushalayim, and they in fact do go. Umutar b'kutim, and it would be permitted to benefit from kutim if you use that language. Denahi demitzuvin Einem olam, because although they are commanded, they do not in fact go up. And why is it that they don't go up? Because if you actually take a look at the what are they called now? The descendants of these kutim, they hold that the relevant mountain is not Har HaMoriah in Yerushalayim, but rather Har Grizim. Indeed, and you can understand why, because if you take a look at the text of the Chumash, the Har Grizim is very important. But in any event, the point is that they have moved towards that as their Jerusalem, and so as a result, when they do their holidays, they are on Har Grizim, and so as a result, they are not Olei to Yerushalayim. And now the Gemara is going to explain all of what we've just covered. So my show say Shabbos. So what do we mean when we say those who rest on Shabbos? So Shabbos, if we're talking about just people who observe Shabbos, meaning that they don't do malacha, they observe the laws. So my area, but kutim, why are you talking about kutim? Afilu ovdei kochavim nami. Even a non-Jew might observe Shabbos. Indeed, nowadays, very often people have, breaks from electronics and stuff like that. And if they happen to do it on Shabbos, so then wouldn't that be some sort of observance of Shabbos? And wouldn't therefore they be covered by this oath of saying that I don't want to benefit from those who rest on Shabbos? So the point is that it's not about the observance, elam mitzuvim al Shabbos. It's got to be the fact that they were commanded on Shabbos. Well, 1 second, ihachi ema seva. But then, if all that we care about is the command, then the latter part of our Mishnah is going to be problematic, because mi'ol Yerushalayim asar b'Yisrael mutar b'kutim. Because we said about the people who go up to Yerushalayim, if I say that I don't want to benefit from those who go up to Yerushalayim, we say that the Jews are prohibited. You can't benefit from another Jew, but you can benefit from a kuti. Amai v'hamitzuvim ninu. They are in fact commanded to go up. So it can't be that. So Amar Abaye mitzuva va'osa katani. It's got to be both. You got to have the combination of being commanded and doing. So, okay, do you have a question, Charlie? Oh, okay. Betarti b'vei kamaita. And that explains all of our cases. In the first two cases, Yisrael v'kutim mitzuvim v'osin, the Jews and the kutim are commanded and they do them. Of the kochavim hahuda abde osin v'ena mitzuvim. And if an idolater does it, so they might be doing it, but they weren't commanded, so therefore they're not covered by the neder. But Ola Yerushalayim. But when it comes to those who go to Yerushalayim, Yisrael mitzuvim v'osim, Jews go and do it. Jews are commanded and they do it. Kutim mitzuvim ve'enu mosim. And kutim are considered commanded to do it because they are considered by this Mishnah to be Jews, even though they are later in the Gemara, I believe, considered not to be Jews. But at least in this Mishnah, they seem to be considered Jews. So as a result, that's going to be a problem. So so ends our Gemara, and so ends this initial discussion of kutim. Now we change and we talk about Bnei Noach. So that's our next Mishnah. And so the next Mishnah says, Konam she'eni nena livnei Noach. I say it should be like a konam. It should be like a korban. That's the phrase that we learned at the very beginning of of Maseches Nedarim, that it's equivalent to saying it's like a korban. Mutter b'Yisrael v'asur ba'ovdei kochavim. If you say that I'm not going to benefit from Bnei Noach, you are not referring to Jews. You are referring only to idolaters. So, basically it really means any other religion. Okay, but Yisrael, minafik miklal b'nei Noach. 1 second, why are Jews not included in the children of b'nei Noach? Abraham was a b'nei Noach. Everybody's a b'nei Noach. So how could that be? So kevan to ikadesh Abraham itgaru al shmei. No, the point is that once Abraham existed, so then Abraham, all Jews are named after Abraham, and they lose the connection to Noach. All right. So that
Can you just say that in normal language, B'nai Noach would mean not Jews?
yeah,
Like
I think this is
Loshon B'nai Adam kind of thing?
yes. I think if we take a look back to the bottom of Lamud Amabet, where we said
Yeah,
that there are terms that mean one thing and the other. Nedarim halak akar lashon b'nei adam.
yeah.
Exactly as you were saying. That's the point. We follow the language that people use, and when people say, at least again at the time that this was written, I think that if it changes over time, it is intended to change. But at the time that people used it, b'nei Noach meant non-Jewish.
But why didn't they say that here? Well, they gave a technical reason instead.
Well, I that's a good question.
Instead, they kind of darshaned it, but whatever, it's okay.
I mean, I think that my take is that they're explaining why why people would use that, and I think well, here's my my thought about it. I haven't really thought too much, but I'll just note the following: from a literal perspective, it's true, right? So we need something to get us out of literal. And so
Right.
as a result, they're trying to cite this idea that once we had Abraham, so then it's as if it's cut off. Otherwise, you maybe you need more to get it out of because of the literal truth to the statement. Maybe we need more than just the way people use it.
Okay.
There's a statement in the Gemara in Sanhedrin that Jews are obligated to all the commandments given to Bnei Noach, and there's nothing that is permitted to a Jew that is prohibited to. Let me get this right.
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, the other way around. Yeah, which implies that we are just a subset of Bnei Noach.
Right. But
Correct. So that would emphasize the Gemara's question. So it is interesting that the Gemara doesn't, you would think that the Gemara could have made a bigger deal of this question than it does.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we know anything about Abraham's parents?
Terach is Abraham's father, and the thing that we know, the main thing that we know about them is that they began the process of moving from Mesopotamia towards the land of Israel. But
present-day
right.
Syria.
So, okay. Okay. So now that takes us to the next Mishnah, which actually focuses on, and you can see how the Gemara has been, I think, written in order to lead into the next Mishnah. So the Gemara ended by noting that we're named after Abraham. So now the next Mishnah says, She'eni nen elazera Abraham. What if I say I'm not going to benefit from the children of Abraham? So Asur Yibi Yisrael umuter ba'ovdei kochavim. You're prohibited to benefit from Jews, but not prohibited to benefit from those who are not Jewish. Ve'ika Yishmael. 1 second. There are descendants of Abraham, plenty of descendants of Abraham, who are not Jewish. So therefore, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Gemara answers that no, because Hashem tells Abraham This is earlier in Bereshis from the Parshiot that we're in now. This is Bereshis Parak Kav Aleph Pasuk Yibet. Hashem tells Abraham that through Yitzchak you're going to be your descendants are going to be named. So that implies that it will not be your name will not go on your other descendants. That only Yitzchak. So one second, Va'ika Esav. Well, one second. Esav is one of Yitzchak's descendants. That's this week's parsha. So we got a nice Daf Yomi coincidence. So what about Esav? Esav is an offspring of Yitzchak, and so as a result, shouldn't they be included in this prohibition when you say that you're not going to benefit from the descendants of Abraham? So bi Yitzchak below kol Yitzchak. So the point is that when it says ki bi Yitzchak yikarei lecha zera, that within Yitzchak you're going to be called. So it's not all of Yitzchak. So which part of Yitzchak is relevant? It's only the Yaakov part of Yitzchak. And so as a result, that emphasizes that although the certain non-Jews may be literal descendants of Abraham, for all intents and purposes, and when one says that they mean that the offspring of Abraham, what they're really referring to is the Jewish people. Okay, so now
the Gemara there is ignoring the fact that the Bnei Esav were forcibly converted during the time of the Hasmoneans.
Well, if they were forcibly converted, so then they may not be valid converts. In which
well,
case
they talk about that with Herodotus in the
right. So that's gonna that would be the question of whether or not. But it actually raises an interesting question, right? What about all converts, right? That's and so and to what degree are converts able to say to refer to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov as our forefathers, and Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah as our foremothers? And the answer is that it's generally understood that Abraham, certainly at least Abraham, is considered the forebearer of all converts, and so as a result, it is possible to say those terms. I believe that is how we conclude.
Yeah, that would be in tension with this Mishnah.
What was that?
That would be in tension with this Gemara.
It would, not quite, because remember that it says it understands it as referring to. It doesn't actually say explicitly. No, it says right. It means Asur b'Yisrael. Anybody who converts to Judaism is considered a Yisrael. So our Mishnah is explicit that it would include converts as well when you say the offspring of Abraham. The question of how you get there is a little more complicated and really isn't covered in this Gemara.
No, it's not. Okay. Yeah.
So She'eni Nedarim Yisrael. So now we get to the next Mishnah. So let's. So now the question is, what if what are the ramifications? So we've been talking. We just set up a number of different situations where the oath that you make causes you to be prohibited to benefit from Jews. So what is that? What's the ramification of that? So She'eni Nedarim Yisrael. If I say I'm not going to benefit from Jews, Lokeach b'yoter u'mocher b'pachot, I can still do business with Jews. Mm-hmm. However, I need to buy it for above the market price and sell it at below the market price. Meaning, if I buy it at the market price, then the implication at this moment is that on some level, we are both benefiting. I'm benefiting and as the seller, and you're benefiting as the buyer, or vice versa. So, if in fact I buy it from you for more, well then you may be benefiting, but I am not benefiting because I am buying it for more than the market price. I could go to someone else and get it for that market price, so it's not equal to that. So I am only considered to be losing in that situation, and therefore I can do that with somebody even if I have sworn off benefiting from that person. She is relevant. Now, what if I say that I don't want any Jew to benefit from me? Well, then lokeach b'fachot umocher beyoter. Well, if I'm going to do business with the Jew, I need to buy it for less than the market price and sell it for more of the market price. Well, of course, the ain't showman low. If only this guy has sworn off benefit from Jews, nobody's going to listen to him, because the Jews are pretty smart and they know that that would be a very bad deal for them, right? Because if I swore off benefiting from Stan, and then I say, okay, Stan, I can't benefit from you, so why don't you buy this from me for above the market price? Stan will say, that's ridiculous. Why would I ever do that? I can go to somebody else and buy it for the market price. So ve'ein shomen lo, that's what it means by ve'ein shomen lo. And just to highlight that, if we take a look at the Ran in the middle of Lamed Aleph, loker b'fachot u'mocher beyeser ve'ein shomen lo, kilomar ein lo takana. There's no fix here. Likach ulimkor, to do business li Yisrael with a Jew. Ela im kain yikach b'pachot v'yimkor lahem beyoter, unless you buy it for less than the price, market price, and you sell it for more than market price. Kadei shelo yahnu mimenu, because the goal is that the other person's not going to benefit from you. About ein shomen lo, but we don't listen to him, b'nei adam, but other people are not going to listen to him, lehefsid mamonam, because who wants to lose money in order to enable this person who shouldn't have made a neder in the first place, who's made this neder? All right, so that's this case where a person swears off giving benefit to others. She'eni nana lahen behenli. What if you don't refuse to benefit in either direction? Well, then yana laovde kochavim. Then if you do that with respect to Jews, you're going to have to do all of your deals with non-Jews. So that's the point. So the point is that what we've structured is an understanding of benefit. Benefit does not mean no connection. It means that from an economic standpoint, I end up better off than I'd be if I would have dealt with others. So Amar Shmuel. Now we're going to quote a Shmuel and then question his ruling, because he has an interesting rule. Halo kayach kli mina uman levakro. If I'm going shopping and I pick up something, I pick up a piece of china, in order to inspect it, v'nen es biyado, and while I'm holding it, somebody comes in and literally knocks it out of my hand, and it breaks. Chayiv, I am liable, because I've effectively taken it. It's as if I am. And now there are different categories of watcher. There is and let's go through the 4 categories so that we understand them. There is an unpaid watcher. An unpaid watcher has the least level of responsibility towards an item. Then there is the paid watcher. Now, in that situation, everybody's on some level benefiting. The person who's paying is benefiting because he's getting his item watched, and then the person who's receiving the payment is getting the payment. So that's the second level. Now, and along with that is the renter, meaning if I rent it from you, I am paying you for the right to use the item. And again, we are both benefiting. But then the final category is borrower. And then in that situation, the converse of the situation of the unpaid watchman, with the borrower, with the unpaid watchman, the only person who's benefiting is the person who owns the object. With the borrower, the only person who's benefiting is the person who does not own the object. And therefore, only in the borrower situation, where the person who's benefiting is only the person who does not own the object, only in a borrower situation is a person responsible for unexpected, uncontrolled events. So if I borrow something from you and it breaks, then I owe you the full value of the item. And that is the halacha from a Jewish perspective.
What happens if the borrower pays I need your tractor.
Uh-huh.
So I come to you and say, I'd like to borrow your tractor. I'll pay you.
Well,
for the
then that
time-
becomes the renter. Then you
Right,
become a
right.
renter.
And
So that's no longer a borrower. Now
It's a
you're a
renter.
renter. And so in a renter situation, in all the other situations, whether it's a renter
I'm
or
fully
whether,
responsible.
no. If you are renting it from me, or if you are a paid watcher on my behalf, or if you're an unpaid watcher, in all three of those situations, if it's something beyond your control, you are not liable at all.
What happens if it wasn't? Let's say
If you didn't do the, if you didn't,
I broke the tractor.
if you literally broke it, so then
Right.
you're always going to be liable.
Instead of taking it over a field that was just grass, I
Took it over a
to
cement.
holder.
Yeah.
And the.
So if then you would be responsible, even if you were a renter or if you were a paid
You'd be
watcher.
responsible for the full value.
You'd be paid for the full deal.
That makes sense.
Exactly. So the point is, and we're going to get into all of those details when we get into Nezikin, but the point is that for our purposes right now, what's clear is Shmuel views the customer in the marketplace who picks something up to look at it as if they were a borrower, meaning that in that transaction, only the buyer is benefiting. But the problem is that we have, so Alma Kasavar Hanas Lokeachi, that the benefit of a deal is all for the buyer. So because the buyer is going to be fully responsible. If there was benefit in both directions, it would be a more analogous to, and you do see that.
You walk into a shop and says, if you
break it, you bought it. Exactly. That's exactly right. And so Shmuel is saying that that's going to be the case. But the problem is that now we're going to ask from our Mishnah, because Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, She'eni nenem Yisrael. So if I said I'm not going to benefit from a Jew, well then mocher b'pachot, I have to sell it for less than its value. Aval b'shava, but if I sell it at its value, lo, I'm not allowed to sell it. Well, ihanas lokeachi, if the value all goes to the buyer. So if I sell something to you for its face value, and you're the one who's considered to get the entire benefit, because remember, according to Shmuel's statement, you're like a borrower. You're getting all the benefit. Well, then why can't I sell it to you for face value? I should be able to, because I'm not benefiting at all. I'm just getting alternative cash that my object is worth. So I should be, if all the benefit of a sale transaction is going to the buyer, so then it must all. So then why shouldn't I be allowed to sell it at face value? So now we're going to distinguish. The Gemara is now going to answer this question by distinguishing between high demand, low demand, and average demand. And the point is that in times of high demand, so then even though you may sell it at the fixed price, either because the market price is being set from outside or for whatever other reason, maybe there are costs to changing prices. But the bottom line is that we're going to deal with those three situations in order to answer this question. So the first answer that we're going to give is Masnisim Bizvina Durame al Ape. That what our Mishnah is talking about when the demand is low. And so as a result, since the demand is low, so as a result, if I sell it to you for the market price, so now I benefit, because when you bought it effectively at a time when demand was low, and I'm lucky to have found you. So im came a ratio. Well, 1 second. If we're talking about in our Mishnah a situation where the demand is low, lokeach beyoser. 1 second. What about the claim that you have to buy it that I have to buy it for a higher price? If I swore off benefiting from other Jews, why do I have to buy it for a higher price? Let me buy it for the average price, because it's a low demand time. So that should be sufficient. In a low demand time, if I buy it even for the average price, so then I'm not getting any benefit. I'm really just giving benefit. V'od ema seva. And what about the end of our Mishnah? She Yisrael nen in lo lokeach b'pachos umocher b'yoter. What about the situation where if I swear off giving benefit to others, right, that the others shouldn't benefit, other Jews shouldn't benefit from me, well, then I have to buy it at below the market price and sell it at above the market price. Well, be'ibis vina deremei al apeh. If it's a low demand time, afilu shava b'shava, I should be able to sell it at its face value, because when I sell it at its face value, I'm getting all the benefit as the seller because it's a low demand time. So Seva Bisvina Kharifa. So we're going to say that the beginning is low demand, the end is high demand. Well, ihaki lokeach befachot afilu shava b'shava. 1 second, but we already said that there's a problem, because then why at the end do we allow the person to buy it at less than its value? He should be able to buy it even at its main value. So the bottom line is that now we have, if we were to say the beginning is is low demand, the end is high demand, each of those statements still have a 50% problem. Ella masnisen bezavina mitzah. Rather, our Mishnah is in a middle case, udishmuel bezvina charifa. And Shmuel is dealing where it's a very high demand time. So now let's work through and we'll see how this all works, right? So the point is that in our Mishnah, it's an even time. And so as a result, when I sell it for the market price at an average time, both I, the seller, and you, the buyer, benefit. And so as a result, it's only when we differ from the market price where one person will get all the benefit and one person will get none of the benefit. And so that's why in our Mishnah, it didn't allow sale at the market price. Whether I'm benefiting from you or you're benefiting from me, we can't sell it at the market price.
Problem is that market prices fluctuate.
Stan had a question.
Aren't you halakhically responsible to not sell it for more than one sixth of a
You are absolutely right. And so as a result, our Mishnah must be talking about where you're selling it from between the market price and that Ona price. The price of Ona is 1/6. That's exactly right. You're not allowed to sell it for too high or too low a price. Yes, Hanan, now your question, please.
The Mishnah has a problem because supply and demand fluctuate and average prices fluctuate. That's what the whole problem is.
So we're talking. So the Mishnah is clearly talking about where the price,
low inflation and stable economic circumstances.
Well, or the Mishnah is talking about a situation where some third party is setting the price. The price is not adjusting for the market, because if it was adjusting for the market, then the price that you sell it for is always going to be quote unquote the average price. And so
price controls.
Yes, we must be talking about some level of price controls, because the implication is that the price is not changing, even though we're either in a high demand or a low demand situation.
Did that back then? I guess so.
Well, yes, I think so. And it could, again, I can come up with a number of potential scenarios. I'm not 100% sure, but what I'm thinking about here is that, when you enter the marketplace, it tells you, and actually, I can't remember, do they have it in, you'll see that, for example, in some markets, especially high-end commodities, it'll tell you what the price of gold is at that particular moment. Right. And so it could be that, but at the same time, that's going to tell, they'll tell you the global price of gold, but then when you go in, it'll depend on how many people are in the stores on that day. Right. Maybe, people want to have the transaction. So on a day, and so that's what we're talking about here.
Not like the price of wheat or something, which is
always changing. And correct. We've got to be talking about a situation, because again, it's all of by definition, high demand and low demand are based on the relevant price. So, so we're talking about based on the particular
So the
price
price
at that
is
moment.
driving the demand, not the other way around?
That's, yes, correct, exactly. Because if the
Supply and demand was driving the price, then it
if the
would,
supply and demand was driving the price, then you would always have, an equal number of buyers and sellers. And so as a result, there would never be quote unquote high demand or low demand moments, because the demand and the supply would always be equivalent. So, there's got to be something that's driving the discrepancy here. And so the simplest, is that there is some tension in changing prices. I don't know what that tension is. Is there a rule that says you can't change prices, or is it that the market price has been regulated, but there's something that's going on, that the price is being fixed, and so as a result, there are going to be times of high demand and low. All right, so let's take a look. And now we Tanya Kivasi de Shmuel. So now the Bryce is going to teach us that another Brysa that was taught that shows that Shmuel's position is right. Halokea kelim min hatagar. If you go and you buy some, you take some vessels from a merchant, l'shagran lebeit chamib, because you want to go and you think that your in-laws are going to appreciate the object. V'amrlo, and you say to the merchant, listen, if my in-laws take this as a present for me, I'm going to give you the full value of the price. But the imlav, if they don't accept it, then I'm going to give you the benefit that I got from being able to take it to them and offer it to them. And that's what the Ran explains. If we take a look in the third line of the widest lines of the Ran, the imlab anino tain lecha lefi tovas hanasha behem kolomar lefi masha hanisi b'masha yechaziku li tova kishahain roin shani maxer l'shagar lahem kalim. All right. The point is that when they see that I brought something from them for them as a present, and then they say, no, we don't want it. That's okay. You could take it back. Right. We know people who are like that. So the point is that then I will come back and pay you something, but it'll be effectively like a rental payment for the object and not the full-fledged value. Well, nen subehalicha chayiv. If when I am taking that object to my in-laws, it breaks, and it breaks against, without my involvement. It's not my fault that it breaks. It falls off the donkey. Then I am going to be responsible for the full value, because at that moment I was a buyer, and as a buyer I'm getting the full benefit. That's what Shmuel teaches. So it must be that we're talking about a high demand time. But because Zara putter, but when I'm returning it to the guy, then I'm no longer a purchaser. I don't want the object, and so as a result, I'm like a renter. And in a rent situation, I am not getting all the benefit. We're both getting benefit because I said I would rent it from you and pay you to the fee. I'm not a borrower. I'm not getting it for nothing. I'm paying you a value, the value that it would take, the value that I get from bringing it to my in-laws and bringing it back to you. So you are going to make money on this because you'll still have the object to sell to somebody else. But the point is because it was a fair deal, because it was a deal where we both benefit. So as a result, if it's an onus for me, if it was against my control, if I had no ability to influence it, well, then I'm not going to be obligated. Because I'm like a paid watcher, meaning you've given me the value of watching it, and I've given you the rental payment. Essentially, I've committed to give you some payment. I don't know why it says like a paid shomer. It should really be more like a renter. But in any event, that's those both of them have the same law.
He's returning the object. He's returning the cutlery.
Correct.
And an accident occurs, but
Correct.
there's no fault on him.
Correct.
It was beyond his control.
Correct.
He owes nothing?
No, he's going to owe the rental payment, right? Remember,
Oh,
he's
the
going,
rental payment,
but he's
the
not,
full
but
value.
not the full value.
That's fair.
That's correct. Exactly. Hahu safsira deshakal, and now we have another story that's going to connect to this. Hahu safsira deshakal chamara lezabuni velo izaban. So now, what if instead of a person taking the object to their father-in-law, they take a donkey and he's taking it to the marketplace to try and sell it. Bahadar itnes chamara. And now when it was coming back, something happened, and again, it wasn't his fault, and the donkey was killed. So chayve Rav Nachman l'shalumi. So Rav Nachman said he's obligated to pay. Now the question is why when you go to your in-laws and you're on your way home and your in-laws didn't want it, are you not obligated to pay? But here, when you bring it back from the market, you are obligated to pay. So Esve Rav of Nachman, Nensu Bahalicha Chaya B'Chazara Pater. Why don't we say, just like with the father-in-law case, that on the way back you're not obligated if something happens against your control? So Amrle Rava explains Chazara Disafsira Holachahi, because the truth is if you are a middleman who's bringing it back, you are always looking for that sale. And so as a result, if you were to find somebody, de'ilu mishakach, de'ilu mashkach luzabune afilu abava debesei milo mezabinle, wouldn't the person sell it to anybody who wanted to buy this donkey? Of course he would. And so as a result, you are all the middleman is always like a buyer. He's not like a renter. He's always like a buyer. And so as a result, when he comes back, he is going to be, even when he's coming back with the object to return it, he's going to be obligated to pay the owner for any damage that happens to it. Okay, so now we'll conclude with this Mishnah. It's a long Mishnah, but the Mishnah will go quickly because it's all about circumcision and we begin by talking about, again, back to this question of when I reference circumcision in the neder, to whom am I referring? So konam shani arelim. If I say that I'm not going to benefit from people who are uncircumcised, mutter ba'arle Yisrael. I can benefit from people who are uncircumcised Jews, because although one might have thought that I'm referring to all Jews, if they're uncircumcised, so that they are literally covered by my neder. But when it comes to the people who are circumcised who are not Jewish, well, then I'm forbidden to. I'm sorry, I got this reversed. Again, I'm saying I'm not going to benefit from anybody who's uncircumcised. So I might have thought that I could not benefit from an uncircumcised Jew. After all, he's uncircumcised. The answer is really, when I say uncircumcised, I just mean not Jewish. So as a result, even if the Jew is uncircumcised, I can benefit from him, and even a non-Jew who is not circumcised, who is circumcised, I can't benefit from him as well. Okay, I can't benefit from him. So now that's the first case. So again, if I say I'm not benefiting from somebody who's uncircumcised, I can benefit from an uncircumcised Jew. And even though the non-Jew may be circumcised, I can't benefit from him because that's not considered, he's still considered uncircumcised. Shani nan elamulim. Now, if I say I'm not going to benefit from somebody who is circumcised, so Asr Ba'arle Yisrael, I can't benefit from any Jew, even a Jew who's uncircumcised. And even though a non-Jew is circumcised, I am allowed to benefit from him. Even though I said I'm not going to benefit from anybody who's circumcised, a circumcised non-Jew is not considered somebody who is circumcised. She'ein ha'arla kruya el l'shem ovdei kochavim, because the term uncircumcised refers to non-Jewish people. Shene'amar, because there are three different verses that give this as an example, one from Yirmiyahu, one from Shmuel Aleph, one from Shmuel Bet. We'll go through them quickly. Shene'amar, ki kol hagoyim arelim v'chol beis Yisrael arle leiv. Right, so the non-Jews are considered uncircumcised, whereas the Jews are considered circumcised. But Omer, and another situation, V'haya haplishti ha'arel hazeh, right? So David, when he refers to Goliath, refers to him as a arel, as uncircumcised. But Omer, and a third case, pen tisamachna benos plishtim, pen ta'alozna benos ha'arelim. Again, referring to uncircumcised people as who are not Jewish as uncircumcised people. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer Meusa hi ha'arla. It's the disgusting, the foreskin, the orla shenisgananu. Because that is how wicked people are. Negative statements are made about them. All of the non-Jews are uncircumcised. All the other nations are uncircumcised. And now we get 6 statements of the greatness of circumcision. Rabbi Yishmael Omer Gedola Mila. That there are 13 covenants made regarding it, because the word Brit is mentioned 13 times in connection with the commandment for Abraham to circumcise himself. Rabbi Yossi Omer Gedola Mila Shadocha as a Shabbos Chamura, that circumcision is great because it overrides Shabbos, meaning if the 8th day is Shabbos, we do the circumcision even on Shabbos. Even though that would be ordinarily, not but for the circumcision, it would violate the Torah. Rabbi Yoshua ben Karka Omer Gedola Mila Shalo Nitla Lola Moshe Tzadik Allah Melosha, that when it came to Moshe, he was almost killed because of it. This is the story when Moshe is coming back from his father-in-law's house, and he comes back and he's attacked by some kind of serpent, and fortunately his wife Zipporah circumcises their son, and saves him. So Rabbi Nehemiah Omer, and yet, notwithstanding the fact of how great Moshe is, that was what was going to happen because of a failure to circumcise. Rabbi Nehemiah Omer Gedola Mila Shadoch as HaNegaim. Not only is circumcision great because of all those reasons, but you can override the law of afflictions, namely that if you have tsarat in the makom milah, although there is generally a prohibition of cutting off a place of tsaras, you are allowed to cut off the orla even though it has tsaras on it. And that is the one of the main sources, as we saw a few masechtot ago, of the concept of aseh docha los aseh. The aseh of circumcision is docha, the los aseh of not cutting off a piece of tsaras. Rebbe Omer, Rebbe says, Gedola Mila shelo kol hamitzos she'asa Abraham Avinu lo nikra sholem ad shemal. Shene'amar hitalech lefanai v'hayei tamim. That the only time that Abraham was considered complete was when he, notwithstanding all the mitzvahs that he did, it was only when he did the Mila. And then it cites the pasuk from earlier in Bereshis. So, and finally, Davar Acher Gedola Mila She'ilmalehi, that if without Mila, Lo Bara Kadosh Baruch Hu Es Olamo, Hashem would not have created the world at all. Shne'amar Ko Amar Hashem Im Lo Vrisi Yomam V'Layla Yomam V'Layla Chukos Shamayim V'Aretz Lo Samti. That if it were not for my covenant, and obviously it really here it means a covenant of day and night, meaning that the world turns, then the laws of then Hashem would not have established the laws of heaven and earth. But we're reading it as Imlo Briti, without the covenant of Mila, so then all of the world would not have been created. And so we will pick up from there. And actually, the fascinating story that we have in the beginning of Sefer Shemot of Moshe's failure to give his son a bris, and why he was punished, even though we're going to see that Moshe had a good reason for not doing the bris right away. So, but yet he was apparently about to be punished. So if you want to hear why he was about to be punished, you'll need to come back tomorrow. So I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. We will be meeting Motzi Shabbos, 45 minutes on Zoom after Shabbos, on Zoom, exactly after Havdalah. So I don't know the precise time, but take a look at your calendars and you will find it. and we will, God willing, and Ellie will pick up, God willing, from there.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.
Take care.